why'd you fly away? Singing la 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 la. Blue jay, why'd you fly away?
As long as I can remember, I'd always wanted to be a mother. I'd always wanted children. And Aaron wasn't quite ready for children as quick as I was. We had only been married a couple months, and I started to beg, can we please start to try?
She told me that she would be a stay-at-home mom, and I was making $9 an hour.
I love to tell that I made a little bit more than Aaron did at the time. Not a ton, but I did.
I've always been good with finances, and I could see that that wasn't going to add up, and so it stressed me out, but I was totally for her being a stay-at-home mom.
I didn't want anyone else to raise our children.
When Lisa was first pregnant with Taylor, she had toxemia, which was basically a retention of water. You could push on her leg and it would indent like 1.5 inches. It's pretty cool looking at it, but it was scary. Nurses would come in and just be like, wow.
My body was still very sick. The only cure for toxemia is to have the baby. And I had an ultrasound scheduled that day. So we went into the ultrasound and my blood pressure was 195/117. And they said, you will not be going home without a baby. They tried to induce me. I was 16 hours with Pitocin. They kept increasing it and it just wasn't working. And so they called the doctor in and he said, let's do a C-section. They threw Aaron some scrubs and we literally ran down the hall. I remember them bringing him to me and I gave him a kiss, and then my body went into shock and I fell asleep and my body was still very sick. I just kind of started into a recovery of my own, and luckily Aaron fell in love with that little boy and took care of him for a good 6 weeks while I was trying to recover.
I was working at AT&T at the time and had taken leave from the first of the year. They gave men maternity leave, which is great when you work with these big companies because it's usually women, but anybody in the company could get it. So I took leave. It was non-paid, but I had 6 weeks that I could just spend while she recovered. And Taylor and I was up with him every 2 to 3 hours and fed him, and we just had a bond. It was amazing. I had looked forward for years to have my own son. My parents were married when I was young and then got divorced, or when I was 9, got remarried when I was 11, and then got divorced again when I was 15. And so a father in my life was non-existent. And so I was grateful for the opportunity to just be a father, to know what I had missed that I could provide. And so Taylor, it was just that avenue for me. Here was everything I'd ever dreamed of. I wish my dad would have spent the time with me like that. And so the first 6 weeks of his life, we truly bonded.
He brought so much joy. I remember sitting on the couch one day next to Aaron, and I had Taylor in my arms, and I just remember thinking, this is all I've ever wanted in life. I am so happy I have so much joy. Taylor developed typically, and we anticipated him to walk at a year. We just thought 12 months is when a child walks, and he didn't walk. And still about 15 months he wasn't walking. I didn't worry too much, but it was awkward carrying him everywhere all the time. I remember watching children walk in the store and thinking, people probably wonder why I carry this child all over. But about 18 months he finally started to walk, but he walked like Frankenstein. And my mom and my grandma kept telling me, there's something wrong, you need to take him to the doctor. And so I made an appointment with our general practitioner, and he just kind of, I don't want to say blew it off, but didn't make a big deal about it. Just said, you know, these things can happen and he'll probably just grow out of it and let's not worry. But he continued to not progress, and he acted like it hurt to walk. And so we made an appointment with an orthopedic doctor, and he checked his bones and all the bones were fine. And so then they decided we need to go see a neurologist, and getting into a pediatric neurologist was a little bit tricky. That took a while. So we got into the neurologist a little after he was 2, and they did a chromosome study on him. So they took samples of blood and urine and sent them back east, and
basically just checking for many diseases. Still not super concerned. They kind of told us that we'd probably maybe need to have him wear braces for a little while, and he'd just kind of grow out of it, and it wouldn't be a big deal. As the tests were out, they were waiting for 10 tests, and 9 of the 10 tests were back. And I remember it was a Friday, and the nurse called me and told me, everything's looking good. They've all come back negative. We're thinking that, this looks good, but we just are still waiting on one. We haven't received it yet, and we'll let you know. So Monday rolled around, and the nurse called again and said the doctor would like to see you tomorrow.
My heart knew that probably wasn't going to be a good meeting. And I don't know how, but something inside told me that he would die. All I'd ever wanted was a baby. I remember Taylor was down for his nap, and I knelt down to pray. And I said, Heavenly Father, please don't take my baby. Please don't take my baby. I remember feeling such a calm peace come over me. And I knew it would be okay. I didn't know what was going to be okay, but that fear subsided and my spirit was calm. And the next day we went to see the doctor, and he told us that our son had a disease called metachromatic leukodystrophy. And the first thing I said was, can you spell that? And he went on to tell us that he would lose all of his physical abilities that he had just gained. And it was a terminal disease. It was a genetic disease.
The disease is called metachromatic leukodystrophy. It's a white matter disorder in the brain. It's amazing how neat and complicated the human body is. These children are missing one enzyme in their body, and that's all that creates this disease. They're missing an enzyme called artesulfatase A. And basically what artesulfatase A does is it replenishes the myelin sheath in the brain, which, to give an example, it's like an electrical cord, how electrical cords have a covering over them. That myelin sheath in our brain is kind of that covering for our nervous system. And so when that's not replenished, it exposes, just like if you can imagine not having covering on wires and just having wires exposed, it exposes them so that they don't work properly, that the body will not work properly at that time. And so they have enough when they're born to last them for about 2 years, and then there's just not enough there to hold out, and so their nervous system starts to have that exposure, and it starts to basically short circuit their body.
And they said that they wanted to test Aaron and I to confirm the diagnosis. And so we went and they took blood from us and they sent that off. So I can't remember, I think maybe a couple weeks it took for the results to come back. And I remember my dad looking up information on the disease, and I didn't really want to read much about it. I didn't want to go there unless I had to, which I knew in my heart, but I'm pretty sure that shock and denial just sets in, and you don't want to have to deal with it until you absolutely have to. So they had us come back in and confirmed that yes, Aaron and I are carriers of metachromatic leukodystrophy, and our son was affected by it, and he would die from it. So a lot of questions at that time, a lot of unsurety. I just knew that he would go back to an infantile state, and I didn't know how that would happen. I knew that he would have problems breathing, and I knew that he would eventually pass away, but was really anxious and unsure about all of that.